7600 Granby Street, individual left a wallet at the store. When he returned it, had been stolen. 500 Birmingham Avenue, stolen vehicle. All the keys were accounted for. 600 Grantham Avenue, stolen auto. All keys accounted for.
What do you mean when you say that?
It means they accounted for all the keys. It's typically, if they can't account for the keys, they left them in the vehicle, or it'll say that they left them in the vehicle.
Oh,
Or if it's all keys accounted for, the method of how they stole it is unknown until we recover the vehicle.
okay.
And then for the following, from May 22 to today, you had larceny from autos, 7400 block of Millbrook Road, 100 block West Little Creek Road, 7600 block of Langford Road, 200 North Shore Road, 7600 block Granby Street, 300 block of Maycox. Those were your larceny from autos. I'll move into 7700 block Nesbitt Drive. You had a stolen package from the porch. 7300 Granby Street. You had some items stolen from an open garage. 7700 Favor. Now we're into stolen vehicles. 7700 block Favor. You had a stolen vehicle. They accounted for all the keys. Up to date on payments, negative. So anytime the vehicle is towed in the city of Norfolk, if a private company tows it or it gets repoed, they contact our word process and they have to notify us of what they towed and things like that for this specific reason. So that way we know. 7600 block Westmere Road, stolen vehicle, keys accounted for. 500 block Timothy Avenue, stolen vehicle. The keys were missing, believed to be left in the vehicle. 600 block of Grantham Road, stolen vehicle. This vehicle was left running. The victim saw a Hispanic male with a reflective vest getting in to the vehicle. Suspect attempted to leave. Victim tried to stop him, sustained minor injuries as the vehicle took off. That one's still under investigation. I can leave this map here. It'll give you an idea of where the majority of them are occurring.
That would be nice.
It's
Thank
the
you.
north side of West Little Creek Road. So an update, we have a new lieutenant in the sector. I forwarded him this information today, so he's aware of what's going on in Ward's Corner, because it is a little bit more than we typically see in Ward's Corner.
I was going to ask you that. That was going to be my
So
question.
you can tell by the month prior, back in August, the numbers were lower, and now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stolen autos in the span of a month, which is pretty high for Ward's Corner.
Like kids are back in school.
So
Yeah, this is nighttime though.
right,
Is it?
yeah, and then the other one, the Hispanic male that they described wasn't a juvenile. I can't speak for the larceny from autos and things of that nature.
That's usually.
Yeah.
So.
That's.
Is it a particular kind of auto or just random?
No, these are random. One was a GMC, so the Hyundais, and I believe 2 were Hyundai or Kia, but one was GMC and the other one was the one that the victim saw. The suspect was a Toyota. So it just depends.
I get the impression that it's like, okay, if the car is unlocked, they're halfway there.
Yeah. So it's kind of hard for me to tell you this with the stats that you have, but our stolen autos are down, just not in that section of the city. Well, no, it's hard for me. I've told my other civic leagues this, but with the flock cameras that the city has put in, the number of stolen auto arrests that we have has gone way up. In addition to the flock cameras, the stolen auto arrests that we've been doing, they changed the procedure. So for juvenile intake now, where they could steal a car before, be caught by police, they would be returned back to their parents.
Right.
So the city changed it to where now if they're charged with stolen auto, they're sent to detention center instead of straight back to home.
Good.
So that with the flock cameras, that's what I'm saying. It's hard for me to boast something. I don't want to be like.
What's a flock cam? What do you call
There are
it?
cameras around the city, around the transportation areas, so the streets.
Okay.
It's license plate readers It doesn't do any facial recognition or anything like that, but it just reads license plates. So what it'll do is, if a stolen auto comes through, it's kind of like the same kind of reader that the tolls and things have. It'll take a snapshot of the car tag, and then our officers, the ones that are technically savvy, they may have it on their phone where they get updates.
right.
But our dispatch gets an update for each and every one. That comes up, they'll say flock hit for stolen auto, and they'll give you the location where the flock hit was, the color, make and model of the car, and the tag. Sometimes we get multiple hits because there's more than one camera in an area. So that lets the officers on the street know, hey, there's a stolen auto. This is where it was seen by the camera. And then they converge on the area, and usually it turns up and they'll get it. So that's why I say, like, I understand that Ward's Corner had their number of stolen autos, but the number of stolen auto arrests that the officers have been getting is up. And so they have been, actually
Coincides with the
So
activity.
we have quite a few that we have those cameras in the Wards Corner area.
Yeah, there's some in the area, especially along Little Creek.
Mhm.
So
They're the mobile units, right, that you see?
No,
they're,
those are different.
they're different. They're only about
Okay.
this big,
Okay.
and they're attached to like a pole. So they look. I mean, it's just like a little camera system.
All right, cool. Questions? Yeah.
Do y'all have like a lack of staffing for dispatch or?
I don't know. Our dispatch is a different entity than the police department. So it's like a different entity in itself. So I'm not sure what their staffing would be.
Okay, I'm just asking because I called twice last night and was on hold and never got picked up.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I had a neighbor call and they never picked up. Yeah. One neighbor, it finally went through after 3 minutes.
Gotcha.
So,
Yeah, that's not the first time I've heard that. Well, I don't have any control over our EOC. That's Emergency Operations Center. They're the ones that take the calls, they're the dispatchers. It might be, but I can't say. I can't speculate on their staffing.
Can you mention it to her?
I can.
I've been on hold before with 911
Yeah.
for like 15, 20 minutes. I mean, so it just happens. It's still, I feel like.
Was yours a 911
sign
call?
of the
yeah, it was not one.
What was in reference to?
There were some teenagers that decided to pull down Millbrook,
Right.
like between our house, get out the car and start fighting in the middle of the street.
Wow.
Really?
So,
Sunday night.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
so I've
So I have them on camera.
Yeah, I would have to look and see how many people called it in. If everybody called it in at once. I'm not giving an excuse for that, because that's not the first time I've heard it. I can pass it along. But again, that would be up to their supervisors. We can just notify them.
So who do you call within the city if that's an issue? If it's not the
Me, I've
police?
notified my command.
No, but like if a citizen wants to call about 911 not being answered, who do we contact?
That's a good question.
Just
Mayor's
one
office.
person?
You know,
You could, honestly, I don't know. I would, normally I'd say you call non-emergency and speak to a supervisor. That would be my option, or you can speak to your city council,
Okay.
other avenues. That, as far as, or, I mean, you can let me know, I can let my command know, but you're better off speaking to a supervisor on their end or someone in the city offices.
okay. I'll always run interference for you when I can, but that's an open shot
It's,
there.
it's a good question. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't have an answer for
Yeah,
that.
okay, that's fine. If you can, we'll take it up with that guy over there, but in the meantime,
Well, you know where you get the most juice, so.
that's right.
I'll be honest.
Are you
with
can you leave that map?
Yes, I can.
That'd be awesome, thank you. Awesome, thank you. All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You're gonna bug out of here, thank you. All right, next on the agenda, right on time too. We have candidate Jackie Glass here to take her 15 minutes of presenting herself. Yes.
Yes, so, good evening, everyone.
evening.
I'm Delegate Jackie Glass. I currently represent the 89th District of the House of Delegates, but redistricting is real, right? This happens every 10 years. We do a census, lines shift, and the district has shifted all the way east. So I've got some different places and different faces. About 75% of the district is new. So I currently represent downtown Norfolk area, ODU, NSU, all the way down to the south side. So I do things a little bit different because I'm at the point where I can articulate what we've done and where we're going. I have a question for you all. Who knows like what the role of a delegate is?
You can represent us in the.
Yeah, I mean, I'm genuinely asking, what is the role of a delegate? If I'll take a hand, anybody know what, or ever interface with a delegate, they're a delegate before?
Make laws?
Yeah, who said yes?
You make laws?
Okay, I make laws. Yes, I do have the privilege of bringing forth legislation, which could possibly maybe eventually become a law depending on. And did someone else say anything? So I ask this question everywhere I go because I will say this, before I got into this role, it was not clear to me. And I wonder, how can people hold me accountable for when they don't know what to hold me accountable for? And that's really important in this work because there's a large amount of responsibility and opportunities for this role for me to be of service to you. But if you have no idea, then I go underutilized, right? And people go without resources. So I'm going to break that down today. That was a question too. So second, I'm gonna manage expectations. I've got 15 minutes. My goal is to start with the little teaser, right? Do we know what a delegate is, where we stand? Second, I want to get expectations because oftentimes we're talking, and I've been a civic league president, so I understand people will come in here, they will run their chats, and you don't get anything that you're expecting from them, right? So to manage expectations, I'm going to take a minute, and I'd love to know, what are some of your expectations, you guys? What are the expectations you guys have for me as I spend maybe 3 to 5 minutes speaking? That's real.
Well,
Yes, ma'am.
Your priorities in Richmond?
Okay, my priorities. Got it. What else?
you were elected based on your platform and what you said you wanted to do. So I would think that you have areas
Platform.
that you're looking, an agenda, a platform that
Yeah.
you're looking to move forward.
Right, and then maybe some of the work that I've done in that platform.
Right.
Got it? Yep. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
Your district goes from Ward's Corner all the way down to Norfolk State?
Oh, no, ma'am. So the district currently, this district goes from Ward's Corner all the way over to like the airport area,
Yes.
down to, I'm like on the
Lake
very
Taylor?
edge, yep, down to Lake Taylor area, and then over to like Valentine Place, that's where I live, and runs all the way up, sort of that Tidewater to Little Creek space, and over, and like cuts in a bit. But that's a really great question, and I'll talk.
So we have different ones. We have different ones than people over by the airport. And that's why, how are you gonna divide your time with all these people?
Okay, how do you make people feel like you're working for them
Yes.
when there's so many different type of people get to the house? That's a great, so I'll actually lean in with that and start with that. One of the first things, when I realized that this district shifted, the first thing I did was go to your current delegate. Anybody know who your current delegate is? Who is it? Loxham. Yes, it is Loxham. And I said,
And
hey,
talk about a different set of values between
right,
the Eastern Shore and here.
And
We
that's-
got no representation with him.
boom, and that's what he said. He said, I'm gonna tell you something, Jackie. Your portion of this portion of Norfolk is probably you'll be lucky to have someone that lives in Norfolk, because I know what it feels like on the Eastern Shore to be the redhead stepchild of Norfolk. And now, at least, he said, you're probably gonna hear that they don't feel represented or feel like they have. So I'm gonna tell them.
Well, no, he's always very honest about it.
He's very, I think we're very candid people, right? Like
Yeah.
we, at least in this role, we say in my role, what you see is what you get. There's space for us to grow. We take this, I use this as an opportunity to do 3 things, and I have the expectation that hopefully if we do this right, you all are able to call me in before you call me out. You give me the opportunity to be of service. So I believe in accountability, boldness, and coalition building. Those are the ABCs of governance for me, period. Right? And accountability, we started with that. You can't hold me accountable for something if you don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. There are some bold decisions and some bold conversations that have to happen because the relationship between myself and local government is really crucial to build at this point, especially when a lot of decisions have been trickled down to the state. The state legislators are a really important piece of how this Commonwealth works right now. And then coalitions, that's us being able to work together. I do have some priorities. The easy things is we're trying to build trust and fund justice. Within many communities, we find that people don't trust politicians, and that's for good reason, right? Like I've been on the other side of this, talk a good game, but then I want to trust you that you'll be able to have my neighborhood be vibrant, have justice, whatever that looks like, just like he was just talking about with finding stolen cars. So we built out legislation like, we're like, hey, at least we want you to not be able to make false documents. We put in funding for it was called, my brain just relapsed. It was called
Victims.
No, Virginia, the Virginia Fund for Virginia, a fund that would specifically provide grants to localities to be able to show up better for their citizens on particular problems. It didn't pass, but we had some conversations and we ended up with some carve outs for Norfolk on some fundings. I think this round got $2.5 million for a specific program we'll be rolling out about group violence intervention. So that is really important to us, that building trust and funding justice, because we can say we want accountability, we can say we want our departments to work well, but like that also there's some finances that come along with that. And sometimes folks forget that. No money, no mission. Secondly, strengthening families regardless of their makeup. I've done a lot of work this past session on the family piece, particularly with guardian ad litems and things with seniors. There's so much work to be done. So we're taking small steps, right? We have to I find we're celebrating our small wins a lot. So we've got some legislation that helped with folks that are guardian ad litem to be able to get financial assets together to understand the pictures of what's happening. But from that to childcare, those are, and let me not say childcare, but also just care. Many folks we're finding are 50, 60 years old, finding themselves now as caretaker. My household is multi-generational at this point. I don't say my mom lives with me. I say we live together.
Right.
We live together with my husband and all my children and dogs and such. But that is where we are right now. I was a caretaker at 17 for my dad. He passed away from cancer, but I was his oldest child. Somebody had to do it, and he was a bachelor and loved it. But I was grateful to be, but that's a real thing these times. And even, I know that families sometimes look like you and your pet. That is respectable. That's where we are. If we keep politicizing parenthood, I know I've got a bunch of teenagers like, I'm not having kids the way this world is now. So that is a piece of, and then enhancing quality of life for everyone. That looks different, which is great to your point, ma'am. It's like quality of life in Valentine Place looks different from Coleman Place, which looks different from Granby, which looks different from Lake Taylor. But there are some values that I think we all can agree on. We want to be safe, right? And safe lives on this spectrum, but I think we can find ourselves pretty much on the same place with what safety looks and feels like. It's just the needs to get there may be different from neighborhood to neighborhood. That's our role to understand. That's my role to understand. I think that we want a better quality. We want life to not be so expensive, right? Like, my grocery bill is up. I budget, let me just say this out loud, and my grocery bill was up from the summer, $250, right? That's to me, that's taken away from the other little things that I want to do. So in this budget, we do now have, for those of you guys who are single, you'll get a rebate up to $200 off of for your taxes, and for married couples, it'll be up to $400. These are, again, they're small wins. It's not permanent, right? But we are trying to do these little things because again, those are the things that we all actually agree on within the General Assembly. And then lastly, investing in our values. And that's where I'm at now. My goal over the coming months, weeks, over the coming year is to get a better and clearer understanding of respectively what the goals and the values of each neighborhood is. Am I going to be able to satisfy each of those values? Probably not. However, I believe in these fundamental things. This is what we built our office off of: educate, advocate, celebrate, and then legislate. I can't do that last piece well, legislation, without doing the first three really brilliantly. So if I cannot, if I see that I am not able to satisfy a need, I build a team that says we will educate you on how to get there. Because sometimes it's not my circus, it's not my monkey, and I can't do anything about it. So I got to send you to your city council person. I got to send you to your school board member. Or maybe there's a resource in the city that within the city or within the nation that could be helpful to you so that you can advocate better. I too was a person who was in the community doing the thing and barking up the wrong tree a lot. If I had just barked up the right tree, I might have got what I was looking for. And with a clearer vision, right, with a clearer lens and other certified doers in the community, we're able to guide that process, celebrate the small wins. I keep saying that because I've learned that this work is incremental, no matter what it is that we're trying to do. And then we can legislate if that's the necessary thing. So I said platform, priorities, okay, the how, the register. Okay, so my platform, I'm operating out of C's. I don't know how this came to be, and I got a minute to get through the platform so I can get to your questions. So the care economy is a huge piece. I actually built out a program called the Child Care Entrepreneurship Pilot Program before I got elected and submitted to the city. That program actually is what they use now, the basis for them developing child development homes, right? Like it took legislation, but we're the first city to be able to do that. I am a creative thinker. I don't ask, we don't say how I'm a person that will ask how we can make it happen, right? And get the right people in there. And as I said, we're working with AARP and everyone in between to look at the care economy, care as not a social service, but a social enterprise for us to be able to advance ourselves. I believe in the creative economy. We're doing a lot of things with folks in the creative energy industry. The way we move, the decisions that we make is all based off someone else's creativity. The commercials you see, the movies you take in, the music you listen to. I believe Norfolk, particularly Hampton Roads, is the creative capital of this Commonwealth. And it is an economic driver. It is we have an opera house, we have so much art here that I think that is a driving factor to bring people into our space and place. The circular economy, looking at how we reuse everything from clothing to nuclear energy, right? Because we are at a place where we have to start thinking of that model of putting things back in. And then the crime aversion economy, right? Yep, crime aversion. It's like we have to invest not only the human capital, the technology, but the opportunities to create vibrant neighborhoods where crime doesn't feel like it has a space to thrive. And that takes investment. And then coastal resilience. I just added that C because I recognize the city is going to need us at the state level to be better advocates for the coastal resilience projects that we have going on. And so it is a learning process for me, right? Like really getting educated so that I can advocate a bit better on that front. So I will pause, and I think I have 3 minutes thereabouts right now to maybe take a couple questions and be on standby. So I'm open. Yes, sir.
Could you go into a little more detail about the coastal resilience?
Right. So what I know right now is that the city of Norfolk has a priority to get the seawall built, and I think it's $215 million more that we need to get their plan up and running, and we're leading in the nation on this. So when I talk about coastal resiliency, it's everything from what is the state funding that helps homeowners prepare themselves in their homes for resiliency, and then what is the funding that also goes into our city to make sure that us en masse are ready for what's to come. And as I said, I will tell you this is if you feel like you're a person who is smart and this is your passion, this is a call in. because I think there are other aspects of coastal resiliency that we kind of need to have our finger on to be better advocates in this role. This is a newer priority for me. So there is opportunity for growth, but if it's your thing, I'm here for it.
Give me a call.
I'm gonna give you my number. Is there any other questions? Comments, concerns?
No,
Okay, so I'll leave with
you're
this.
pretty thorough.
I'm making sure that I manage that, and I think that's what helps us do this better, is that this is a process by which we have to manage each other's expectations.
Sure.
And that's how we continue to do good work with each other. I'm going to leave this with everyone. It's not a campaign card. I built this because what I found is the question I asked you was the question that many people were stuck on. They're like, well, what do you do? What is even your role? What is it? So on the back of this card, it just explains what a delegate does. It's a part-time job with full-time problems.
Absolutely.
This part, and then on the front, it talks about how I can help. And I think it's important for you all to know, as I use this last minute here, to look. Last minute here, right? You need help with utilities, you need help with state agency, that's the DMV, the DOC, the employment
DEQ.
DEQ, all of that. We are your state liaison to these departments, right? That's our role. We are supposed to interface. Information and referral, we're actually the only office that is piloting this huge state program, because I begged, pleaded, and also demanded that you need to let us, because we do social services, bills and resolutions. If you all know any 13 or 14-year-olds that are great students, we have a program called the PAGE program. Those applications are open right now, where they come up to the General Assembly, they work with us, they get paid. Real good. I think they end up making more than I make. Maybe, but this is it's called the PAGE program. I need y'all to look into that. Speakers, flags. If someone has passed away, I can put in a memorial resolution. And also, if you feel like there's a space, place, person, or opportunity that is doing amazing things and that we should recognize them, we have the privilege of putting in commending resolutions to honor the work of those who, in perpetuity, in the Commonwealth agenda for the work that they're doing. And we're open for that. So I'm going to give everybody one of these. Again, it's not a campaign card. It's just so you have it in your back pocket of how to use us.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
Again, call me in before you call me out.
All right.
All right.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Jackie.
you.
Thank you very much. Very good. All right, very good. All right, next on the agenda, we get updates from, I'll let you two wrestle it out, either Martin or Adele. Who wants to go first?
Ladies first.
Martin, go ahead.
I'm gonna be really quick. So we are just a few weeks into the 23-24 school year, and you may have seen on the news that we have weapons detection systems that we tried on the very first day, and they've worked really well. They are different than the previous metal detectors. These are actually better technology that can tell the difference between a laptop and a gun, because the metals in a gun are much denser and different. And so it was, I was at Granby High School on the first day. We had a bus snafu where the buses were off schedule, so we had a lot of drop-offs, which created some backup getting them through. But I have to say the students were excellent. They're very patient with it. And what's great about these devices is that they're these thin towers on either side of as the student walks in, but they're mobile. So you'll see them at different doors that are being used as entrances, but also at sporting events. So over at Palatine Field and so on and so forth. So so far so good. Let's see, if you've watched any of our school board meetings, we've gone through the evaluation process of our superintendent, and we're now setting her goals for the next year. And so she's coming back and she's letting us know what what some realistic benchmarks are for her. And so we've had those discussions, and we're going to continue to do so and hopefully wrap that up in October. So I'm happy to answer any questions about that. I do have some preliminary data on our accreditation status. So this is based on the last year school year's SOL testing, which we get the accreditation for this school year. And I don't have my glasses on me, but we have let's see, 25 schools, which is 61%, are accredited, and 16, which is 39%, will be accredited with conditions. So so far we don't have any schools that are unaccredited. I do want to give a shout out to Coleman Place, which was off the accreditation list for a while and has now joined the accreditation list, which is great. One of the schools that had also been not performing on par was Ruffner Middle School. This year, we've introduced a new program there. It's called the Compass Academy, and we've also converted it into a 3rd through 8th school. So this is an academy it's very focused on skills and interests as far as career pathways. And so we're really introducing them to different careers and early, and also putting the resources in so that they can explore those careers and hopefully have a better idea of what they want to do when they get to the high school level. We have a meeting on Wednesday, so please tune in, and I'm happy to take any questions. Yes.
Have you lost many teachers, and have you had an increase in non-English speaking students?
We consistently have an increase in non-speaking students, and it's in Spanish, and so we've taken many steps to make sure that we have translators there. We found out during COVID that we were translating things into English but then we were translating materials, but weren't translating them into certain languages, and we've expanded that. And also, I think that some teachers were using Google Translate, which isn't very good. So we're actually having human beings read over it, making sure that it's accurate before it goes out. So we'll continue to do that. And as far as losing teachers, there's always a big shuffle that happens every summer, but we haven't lost any more significantly than in the past.
Are we on a downward trend, or?
Everyone's shuffling around.
Okay.
It's the same with bus drivers and many other professions where right now, we keep increasing our wages and building incentives, but they can go anywhere.
Yeah.
So we try to do as much as we can to show that we value them and we want them to stay. One of the things that is a big issue that obviously isn't unique to Norfolk is that we did have an equity report presented to us a couple months ago, I want to say June, and it did reveal some things that it wasn't good news, but it wasn't shocking. And one of those things is, how do you get teachers to go, really good teachers to go into some of the schools that are, they don't want to move. They're happy where they are and have been there for years and whatnot. And so that's very difficult. And I just had an email sent to me this past week of a resignation. It was a teacher who was at ADL and really loved it, and then went to, I think it was Coleman Place, and she said, I can't take it here, and she quit. And so unfortunately that's going to happen, but we still have to keep doing better as far as equity goes so that we have the best resources in all of our schools.
So you said the metal detectors are working. It's like, how do we know they're working? Are they actually detecting weapons coming into the schools, into the sporting events, or?
I don't know that answer. They're in all of the schools right now, so there may have been one detected. We get a lot of false claims.
Yeah,
So
there's
I
a
did
lot
get a
of
few
things
of
that will set
those.
them off. The laptops set them off, which is part of the reason why kids aren't taking laptops home as much. A 3-ring binder will set them off.
And
And
the
any
water
like
bottles.
wooden knife or something that's not like blatant heavy metal will not be detected by the weapons detection.
So they, and also the water bottle, they like the Yeti water bottle.
So I mean, to me, that they're not working. When I'm hearing this.
So what happens is, as they go through, they have to empty, anything like it's the large 3-ring binders, not the smaller ones.
Yeah.
And so they have to pass them to security, and if it still goes off, they go through the bag. So it's very hands-on.
So
It's like the airport.
You move them to the sporting events, football games, whatever. None of those things should be going through a gate at a sporting event.
Right, so if you're walking through and it goes off, then there's something on you.
Yeah, but you said that they're working. have they detected it? Or if they're not detecting anything, then we don't know if they're working.
Well, we haven't had a gun show up yet, so.
I think she's saying it based on the fact that it's causing, them to have to inspect bags. It's like at the airport, they, pull you to the side and everything.
Yeah.
That's an indication that it's, that they're obviously working, that they're getting hits, but there's not a gun there. There's something else,
Seems
which
like
is
every
good.
week something on the news or some place in one of the states or cities. At a
Oh, yeah, I mean,
football
guns are
game,
everywhere
they're
in the
shooting.
schools.
We got too many of them out on the
Yeah,
streets. That's
so
all there
most
is
of the
to it.
school shootings are done by adults. If you pay attention to that.
Yes,
Mhm.
exactly.
All right, any other questions?
I would also say the system really doesn't work if you don't detect everyone, because they don't do before care.
Everyone who enters the building has to go through it.
Before care goes through a different door.
Well,
They
they
do
move
not
them,
detect
they're
that.
supposed to be moving them to the doors and.
You need to check your school.
Well,
If
there's-
they don't do that.
There's a lot more entries than there are
Yeah.
detection centers for
They
schools.
are.
Like Granby High School has 1,000 different
But
entries.
they've
and
closed
so
the rest of them down, so
Yeah, so you
there's
have
the
to-
side door and the main door.
Some is better than none.
All right,
Well,
thank you.
maybe you can look into that and report next month
That'd be
about
great.
how we know they're working.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Martin, you're up. Thank you. Thank you, Adele.
Hello, everybody. How are y'all?
Hey, Martin.
Let's talk about a few things. The 911 center is indeed, someone over here, understaffed. We are having a hard time finding people who can work the 911 center because it's a high pressure job and you gotta be able to type. And schools these days aren't teaching kids how to type. And so we're having a hard time finding qualified people to work there. We just increased pay this past budget to try to attract additional people to work there. So hopefully that will help us attract more. If not, we'll revisit it next year again. I know that the city manager is also looking into whether we can change technology so that instead of typing, they can speak into the system. We don't have that technology now. We're looking to see if it exists and how well it would work.
So there is a system that I implemented in Franklin. I used to be the director of IT for the city of Franklin.
Okay.
I did 911 like all day. The system we put in was basically click and drop. Call comes in, it automatically knows the address. They would send the code. Really, they needed to know what the code was, but they could start typing it in and auto-populate, and it basically did the job for them. So.
You looking for a job?
Don't say too much. You say too much, you're gonna get called out, man.
Work at any job.
Yeah, all right.
So if let me give you my card. Just send me the information on your system that you installed, and I can pass that along. What else is going on? Ward's Corner. So the store that shall not be mentioned came before council a couple weeks ago for a vote to rezone to allow that store to be built, and they've asked for it to be continued. So hopefully it'll be back on the agenda.
Who asked for it to be continued?
The applicant.
Really?
The owner of the property.
Oh, the owner of the property.
Who's the applicant.
Oh, okay.
So, fingers crossed. The old Farm Fresh, it's still owned by the real estate group out of Canada. It's going to be called Slate. I think that something will be happening on that soon because I think the lease is up very, very soon. So stay tuned. The Midtown Shopping Center, that's the white building, blue awnings where the Chipotle is located. It is still on the market. It was originally put on the market about 6-7 months ago for an absolutely insane price. That price has been dropped now, so now it's just a little bit insane. So stay tuned. Hopefully it gets sold to someone who can take care of it. As I've talked about before, the condition of that building is absolutely horrible, unfortunately. The family that's owned it just hasn't taken care of it at all. What else? Anybody have any questions? Hit me. Oh, I'll talk about the resilience plan, but go ahead.
Just with the city buying all this property, whether it's NOAA, the mall, Military Circle, what do we have any firm plans for what we're doing with any of this space, or even the casino for that matter? What's going on?
One question at a time.
Yeah,
It's just so much.
It's been summer. She's got a lot on her mind.
All right, one at a time, and remind me if I miss it.
Okay.
Let's talk NOAA first, because that dovetails into the resilience plan that Jackie was talking about earlier. All right, so we bought the NOAA property because that's going to be integral in building this, essentially the new flood wall, flood protection for the city of Norfolk.
Okay.
And for those of you who haven't been here, I've described that the city's entered into a $2 billion $2 billion agreement with the Army Corps of Engineers, first of its kind, and we are going to build a protection system for the city of Norfolk before we are hit by a hurricane or a major storm. Okay, and it's essentially going to build either a wall or a berm. It hasn't all been designed yet, around 2/3 of the landmass of the city. It is absolutely groundbreaking. It's something to be celebrated, right? Something that we're going to be leaning hard on Jackie for is to fund that wall. So the federal government is going to fund about federal government's going to fund about 65% of that. Then we've got to find the rest of that funding. And so the city obviously is going to have to put some money in, but we're also going to go to the state and ask them for some significant help as well. And so we'll be working hard with our state partners to try to get funding for that. To give you a quick description, again, for those who haven't heard me say it, it's going to cross Broad Creek so that if the storm's coming in, you close the floodgates and all of the neighborhoods off of Broad Creek will no longer be flooded by that northeaster or that hurricane. And we've already done Chesterfield Heights with a $120 million project that's finished now. You skip over that because it's already done. It's essentially going to pick up right near the railroad tracks for the Amtrak station in Harbor Park. It's going to go all the way through downtown, past Freemason, including the Hague, into West Ghent, and then it stops at West Ghent at the train tracks, picks back up at the sailing center of Old Dominion, goes across the mouth of the Lafayette River, and dead ends into NIT. So if you think of any neighborhood, whether it's Norview, Roland Park, anywhere in the center of the city that has water that comes from the Lafayette River, during a major storm, we close the floodgates and we will no longer be flooded. So that's a phenomenal change for the city of Norfolk, something that will last, according to the Army Corps of Engineers, 100 years to protect the city.
And that's not just for like abnormal high tides, right? That's just for major storms.
That's going to be for major storms.
Okay.
Now, as the waters continue to rise and our land continues to sink, we may be closing those gates more and more.
Okay.
But
A lot of times the abnormal high tides are from storms that are out
Yeah,
to sea
well,
too.
there's various reasons, but you know.
now, what doesn't this wall do? This wall protects us from tides and surges, right? It doesn't protect us from rain floods. So when it rains a lot and we can't get the water out quick enough, it's still going to flood. That's going to be a second part of this plan long-term, is finding, once we build the bowl, once we build a wall, a big bowl,
The
then got to
drainage,
pump the water out.
the drainage.
So the second part's about tons of new pump stations that are going to have to be installed all over the city to pump the water out and over the wall to protect us from those rains. But it's a huge undertaking, so that's exciting.
Where's Noah going?
Outside the state, if I remember correctly.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of hurts.
Can you get details on the plan?
On the wall, there are no details on the wall. The Army Corps is going to design it, and they haven't designed it yet. They're going to do it in phases. And the first phases we think are going to be on the outskirts of downtown because we own the property already, and so they can start faster. But we're also doing a new op sale in 2 years downtown. Remember the op sale we did 10 years ago? We brought all the tall ships in. We're trying not to disturb Town Point Park until we get past that, and then they're going to tear it all up.
Wasn't there some stuff on the city website on the?
They've shown some design guidelines.
Yeah.
So basically, if you think of the wall in front of the USS Wisconsin, that is the design of the wall that failed down in New Orleans. Mm-hmm. It's basically a straight sheet of concrete that goes straight down into the ground. And it will not work. The Army Corps has come back and said, we've seen it fail time and time again. So it's got to be ripped out. They've got these new designs of walls. They've got a couple different designs of walls. We have to build a wall. If we have the space, they won't do a wall. They'll do a berm, but it's called the T wall. And they got a U wall. They've got a bunch of different engineering. Depending on how close the buildings are, they're going to shoot pilings in one direction or the other to hold them and stabilize them.
So it's
And there was just some studies.
And these-
Or instead of a wall, they sort of use a barrier of
They're bank
grass,
Right.
and
Berms.
actually absorb the water going in and out. They found that is actually better.
Yeah, there's
than
a lot of technology.
Yeah,
involved around it.
where there's space that allows, they're going to do the berms, mostly because it's significantly cheaper as well. But it's, you're talking about 50 feet, and for the entire length of it, they're requiring that they have vehicle access on top so they can go test it and make sure everything's working. So it's going to be a huge undertaking. But the Army Corps is in charge of doing that.
Is the resilientnorfolk.com website still a
Yeah,
good
that's
one?
one.
Yeah.
I think it's still there. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can get details from it there. Yes.
Mhm.
All right, next property. What'd you say next? In order?
I mean,
that
just
was
pick
Noah.
any, the
Well,
mall, we'll go with
The mall. Okay, we own 2 malls now.
Yes.
Taxpayers in the city own 2 malls. One of them being torn down, the other is sitting almost empty, right? We're shifting our focus right now. There's no desire of city council to continue to own 2 malls, right? We're not in that business. We shouldn't be in that business. We're shifting our focus right now to try to figure out what we should do with the downtown MacArthur Mall first, because we feel like it should be the easier and quicker thing to figure out. So we're going to hire some experts to come in. They're a company that does mall plans for all these failing malls across the country. And they're going to come look at it and say, all right, these are the reasonable things that we can do with this mall, given its location in our downtown, given its design, given how it was constructed, because you can't put things on all floors depending on how strong they were built and things like that. So they're supposed to come back and say, all right, here are the things that you can do with this portion of the mall. It will hold a hotel, or it won't hold residential, all these things.
Mhm.
And then we'll try to come up with a plan there to either get it out to some developers, sell it to somebody who could do something for us to actually make the money back that we've invested into it. We think that the downtown mall should be a quicker turnaround than military, and so we're focusing on that right now. Military, you may have seen in the news that there is the possibility of a VA hospital going there. The VA has an interesting process where they decide that they want to put a new hospital in, but they don't specifically say where. They just draw a big circle and they say, all right, construction guys, developers, come give us your proposals. And apparently you're allowed to propose a site that you don't own. And so some of these contractors have said, we propose to build you a new VA hospital on the military circle site that the city of Norfolk owns. And so if they go through that process and if they choose one of those sites, then they will come to the city council and say, hey, as a part of this process, we want to buy this land from you. It's not something that we have to do. So if we look at their plan and we don't like it, we don't have to do it. If we look at the plan and we do like it, well, we can decide to do it. So that's something that may or may not come up on our radar. We're told the VA has a timeline during which they will make this decision. We're also told they almost never make that timeline. So we're in a holding pattern on that one. I think casino next. Yes, Clem, sorry, you got a question?
Real quick, by the old Paul Hospital, are those apartments still there over there?
Yes, as far as when I texted the developer about a week and a half ago, he said everything was on schedule. I think they were looking at hopefully starting construction in the new year. So they're lining up their funding. Yes.
There are a couple dozen mistakes over by the Little Creek, East Little Creek and Tossing Boulevard, at the down ramp. And they're going to expand the overpass. Are those connected?
I don't know if that's connected. I would assume so, but I don't know. That's the construction of that's being done by the state, for the expansion of the HRB.
It's just interesting seeing all those stakes right there.
I would assume so. I haven't heard about any other projects in that area. I would assume it's all connected with the surveying that they're going to do prior to that. Casino. That was your next one. You get 4 more questions after this.
Really short. We got John coming up.
Okay, I'll go fast. Sorry.
No questions.
Okay. We entered into a contract with the Pamunkey and Indian tribe to do a casino on the land next to Harbor Park. They picked the developer to come in and actually build it. I don't have any faith. The city doesn't currently have any faith in the developer knows what they're doing. That has been the holdup. We are ready. We're willing. We're saying, let's do this. You came out. You said you'd build a hotel. You said you'd build a spa. You said you'd build a marina. You said you'd build a parking garage. And they
No.
keep coming in and saying, well, we're going to build less than that.
Yeah, we want to
Keep
phase
saying
it.
no.
We don't want one like
So
We don't want
Portsmouth.
we're
what's
just
in
waiting.
Portsmouth.
I love Portsmouth. I'm not going to say anything bad about Portsmouth, but when the developer came to this civic league and every other civic league and said what they were going to build, it had a lot of things that they're trying to back out of.
Okay.
We're going to sit until they come do what they told us they're going to do.
I got it. Cut you.
With the purchase of the mall, why did we purchase this? I mean, why does it become the problem of the people that owned it already? If we did not have.
Well, then
a
it would
plan?
just sit empty.
I'll explain real quick, and then you're
But
kicking me out.
why is that? Why do I have to worry about it?
Because we own most of it already, is the short
Yeah,
answer.
remember we built
We own the
that.
parking garages, we own the Nordstrom land in the Nordstrom building, we own the land underneath the Dillards, we didn't own the Dillards building, and we own the land underneath the mall itself, we just didn't own the mall. So we bought it very cheap because we own most of it already, so now we own all of it, and we can have some control over what goes there.
Mhm.
All right, that's it.
Sorry, is there still talk about using it as a holding place for Maury?
That was never something we were discussing
Okay.
whatsoever. I don't know where that rumor came from, but I've
Okay.
spent more time saying that's not true.
Yes, please,
Not
tell-
happening.
that is definitely not true.
There you go.
All right, I'm getting kicked out.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks,
Thank you
Mark.
very much. John Sitka, your moment of fame has come. Please present. You don't have to leave, Jackie, but okay.
I'm still here, but I think.
All right, that's fine. John, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Of course, y'all met Jackie, and I'm John Sitka. I'm her opponent. She's running as the Democrat, I'm running as the Republican. And so to let you know, back last year, I don't know if some of you are aware of this, but I was running for school board. And there was a reason for that. I've been in this area since 1979, courtesy of the Navy, thank you. Yes, I'm retired 20 years from active duty. And my kids went to Norview. But now my grandkids are in school. In fact, this year, my granddaughter's over at Granby and my grandson's over here at Northside. So I have a kind of a vested interest in the health and welfare of their education. And I had some concerns about the education system here in Norfolk. So that's when I started running for school board. Because I started realizing our school board really wasn't listening to parents, actually. And I'll tell you a little story about that happened on May 17th, which y'all may not be aware of.
Did you serve on the school board?
No,
Okay,
did not make it.
all right,
That's why I decided to run for House of Delegates. I have not given up on the issue.
okay.
Because to me, there's things that are important to our community. Now, y'all have had the community resource officer come in here and visit you, right? I've been here with y'all when he has. And I will tell you, one of the things I'm gonna ask him about it, he says, most of our crime here in this area in Norfolk occurs between the ages of 14 through 26. Kind of a young age, right, for the majority of the crimes? And so I'm thinking, like, how can I tie this in with education? Because you want to try and work with young folks as early as possible. You want to kind of, I'm not going to say nip it in the bud, but let's try and get it where it makes sense. So I don't know about y'all, but for me, I grew up in a very large family of 8. And because of that, mom was on Section 8. That meant I had to get out of the house as early as I could, go to work and help support mom and the kids. And I was working in a program called Distributive Ed. We work a half a day, go to school a half a day. And I got to thinking about our situation here in Norfolk and got to think of why aren't we expanding that? Why don't we do more with this? Now, some of y'all told me that y'all are okay, you want to see more of the vocational training. Well, that's fine. That keeps you in school all day. And yes, we've lost a lot of that, whether it be like electrical work, automotive, things like that. But I want to say right now, to take care of stuff more in the short term and would have the greatest impact is high school workforce education. Hampton Roads Workforce Council told me they have a program called Next Gen, where they can actually take kids as early as 14 and get them jobs, and it could be profit, nonprofit. I said, how about city? No, yep, we can do city. How about state jobs? We'll look into that too. If we can get kids early on that aren't probably going to college, and give them an opportunity early on to help themselves, help their families. Think about it. If they're already working, then to come summertime, they're working, they're still getting their high school credits, because that half a day does count for high school. And then eventually, when they leave high school, we can actually have folks that are already in the workforce and workforce ready. One of the things we need here in Virginia is a workforce. And we want young folks to be a part of that, to be responsible early on, right? So those are my big functions that I'm really looking at. I have a whole bunch of other things to look at, such as school security. And that kind of drew me towards the workforce part. I had a mom over here. We were spending a time, an hour at a coffee shop over here. No, it wasn't Starbucks. But we did spend some time. She showed me on her phone, her cell phone, and Instagram. There were 3 channels for over in Norview, where I live, of fights going on constantly every day. And these things, you know, I had concerns, but it was really kind of a reflection of that. And what can I do? And that's why I came up with the idea of high school workforce education, is to help these folks to go out and do something other than. Doesn't mean the core courses won't be covered. I would make that a prerequisite in the bill. And also, how about this? Funding, because I already know they're already doing it in workforce, for businesses to bring these students on, get money for bringing them on, training them, and then, of course, give them incentives when they're responsible on their jobs. Those are things that I think would be very helpful and productive to our community. May 17th, just to give you a little background, school board here in Norfolk had a meeting. And I'll let you know, a lot of parents have very serious concerns about our schools. This particular meeting, they were approving a curriculum for our middle school students. And this concerned a lot of parents that they actually showed up. And they told the school board, don't do this. Because this curriculum was very graphic at the middle school. And I know my grandson, he's now entering middle school. And I believe, when I'm not, as much as I love him and I know him, I don't think this would be very helpful for him at this time. But what happened is, it turns out the school, and by the way, I read a letter that came from the superintendent from the Department of Education that told him, do not do this curriculum. It is not approved and it's way too graphic. And they still did it. No matter what anybody said, they already decided this behind closed doors. And then voted on it. Boom, it was a done deal. So parents were very concerned. Yes, there are other issues I'm looking at. Housing, small businesses. In other words, I'm meeting with a gentleman this week, and he's off of 35th Street. And him and I are going to talk about what was called Norfolk Black Wall Street. That hasn't been done. He wants to implement it. We want to take economic zones and make them revitalized. We want to also look at things. I'm looking at mental health. By the way, just to give you a background, I have a master's degree in professional counseling. My practicum and intern was all done over at the Virginia Beach Community Service Board. And when I talk to the folks here in Norfolk, I come to find out they're a little bit short-handed on counselors, licensed counselors. You know what we used to do in government or corporate world? We would say, if you go get this education or training, we'll pay for it. In turn, you have to work for us for a certain period of time. And I'm thinking that would be great because most of these folks need to get their intern work. Commonwealth of Virginia says you have to have at least 2,000 hours of intern work. So they're going to have to do this anyway. And what better way to do it but do it back in the community? That's one way I think would be best. They also have something called emergency services, where this group of folks go out anytime, 24 hours. Well, I come to find out they don't have any money. I'm like, why? So what can the state do? My thing is, how can the state help fund these? Even though they belong to Norfolk, how can the state help? There is no conflict between me and the city. I'm thinking, how do we help each other? Think about it. If you look at the arrangement of the 93rd, it is literally the heart of Norfolk. When you talk, from where we live, go out to St. Pius, go down the Military Circle, past Popular Hawk, cross over Lindenwood, come over to the zoo, come back up again. We are the heart of Norfolk. So I've been a part of this community. It's important to me. Folks, I helped build Tidewater School of Navigation from the ground, which has been part of this community since the 80s. Rebuilt them up until they got strong enough to be now what was called Mid-Atlantic Maritime Academy. And now they've been bought to Maritime Institute. So believe me, when it comes to workforce and education, I have a background in this. I want to see Norfolk strong. I want to see Virginia strong. And I want to see our community strong and working, productive,